Absolutely not. Commander Rayleck's voice boomed across the Aegis Explorer vessel's command deck, his four crystalline eyes flashing with irritation. The Zentari commander's exoskeleton clicked against the metallic floor as he paced before Mara Vale, his frustration evident in every movement. "Commander, with all due respect," Mara began, straightening her shoulders. "Dr. Vale," Raylock interrupted, emphasizing her title with what sounded like disdain. "Humans cannot survive Karen V's atmosphere. This is not speculation. It is scientific fact." His translator unit rendered his clicking speech into perfect standard, but couldn't disguise the dismissiveness in his tone. Mara took a steadying breath, acutely aware of the eyes of the entire bridge crew upon her. As one of only 5 humans aboard the Aegis, and the only one assigned to this particular landing mission, she knew her actions represented more than just herself. It had been 75 cycles since humanity had joined the Galactic Alliance, and they were still fighting for respect among the stars. Sir, my new survival suit was specifically designed for Karen V's conditions," she pressed, gesturing to the sleek carbon fiber armor she'd spent the last 3 years developing. "The adaptive membrane can withstand both the extreme temperature fluctuations and the cationic residue in the atmosphere." Around them, the various alien species comprising the Aegis crew watched with varying degrees of interest. Some, like the Venturians with their floating gas-filled bodies, seemed merely curious. Others, particularly the Zentari officers loyal to Raylock, looked skeptical at best, contemptuous at worst. Only Lyra, the Paxian astronomer whose blue-tinged skin glowed faintly in the dimmed bridge lighting, offered Mara an encouraging nod. "Your species joined the Alliance mere moments ago in cosmic terms. Dr. Vale," Raylock continued, his mandibles clicking rapidly. "You cannot expect us to risk an entire expedition on untested human technology." Something in Mara snapped. "Then test it," she challenged, stepping forward. "Put me in the atmospheric simulation chamber. Subject me to everything Karen 5 can throw at us. If I can't handle it, I'll withdraw my request to join the landing party." A murmur rippled through the bridge. No human had ever survived a full Karen 5 simulation. The toxic atmosphere of the mysterious planet had claimed dozens of explorers from even the most resilient Alliance species before the current protocols were established. Raylock's crystalline eyes narrowed to glittering slits. "Very well, Dr. Vale. Report to the testing facility in 1 hour. I look forward to resolving this disagreement." As the commander stalked away, Lyra floated to Mara's side. "That was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish," the Paxian whispered, her voice like wind chimes. Mara's forced smile didn't reach her eyes. "Let's hope it's not both." The testing chamber loomed before her, a massive spherical structure with walls of transparent alloy, designed to withstand the most caustic atmospheric conditions in known space. Inside, a nightmare awaited, a perfect recreation of Karen 5's hellish environment, swirling clouds of toxic gas, temperatures that fluctuated between burning and freezing in seconds, atmospheric pressure that could crush conventional spacecraft, and the mysterious cationic particles that had devastated the respiratory systems of previous explorers. Dr. Som, a Venturian engineer whose amorphous form was contained within a specialized environment suit, hovered anxiously beside her as she prepared. "The suit modifications we made should hold," he said, his voice emanating from a speaker on his containment field. "But Mara, no one would blame you for backing down. Raylock is being unreasonable." Mara checked her suit seals one final time. "If humans are ever going to be taken seriously in the Alliance, we need to prove ourselves. This is bigger than just me or this mission." She activated her helmet, the transparent material flowing seamlessly from her collar to encase her head. The suit's neural interface connected with her implants, and a heads-up display flickered to life before her eyes, showing all system functions at optimal levels. Besides, she added with a grin that belied her nervousness, I've spent too many years on this suit to not show it off a little. Som's gelatinous form rippled in what she recognized as Venturian laughter. Your confidence is either your greatest strength or a fascinating form of human insanity. Probably both, Mara admitted. The chamber's entry port irised open, revealing the swirling maelstrom within. A group of observers had gathered on the observation deck, including Commander Relak, Lyra, and several other senior crew members. Most looked somber, as if attending a funeral rather than a test. Mara took a deep breath of the purified air in her helmet and stepped through the threshold. The effect was immediate and violent. Her suit sensors screamed warnings as the external temperature shot to nearly 200 degrees Celsius, while caustic chemicals began attacking her suit's outer layer. The gravity fluctuated wildly, causing her to stumble before the suit's stabilizers compensated. "Status report," came Relak's voice through her comms, sounding almost hopeful that she'd begged to be extracted. "All systems functioning within parameters," Mara replied calmly, despite the sweat already beading on her forehead. "Outer membrane is cycling through adaptive configurations to counter the chemical assault." She took several steps deeper into the chamber, fighting against hurricane-force winds that carried particles sharp enough to slice through standard Alliance armor. Her suit's outer layer rippled, constantly reforming its molecular structure to resist the cutting edges. "Impressive," came Lyra's voice. "The suit is holding better than expected." "Initiating Phase 2, announced a technician's dispassionate voice. Without warning, the temperature plummeted to minus 150 degrees Celsius. Frost immediately formed on every surface, except Mara's suit, which began to glow faintly as its thermal regulation system kicked into overdrive. Mara felt the cold trying to seep in but kept moving. "Still within operational parameters," she reported, keeping her voice steady despite her chattering teeth. "Cationic storm incoming," warned the technician. This was the real test. The mysterious cationic particles unique to Charon 5 had been the downfall of previous explorers. They somehow permeated most protective materials and caused catastrophic respiratory failure. The air around Mara shimmered with an eerie purple glow as the particles enveloped her. Her suit's integrity alarms began to sound, warning of microscopic breaches forming at the molecular level. "Dr. Vale, your suit is compromised," Relak stated, not bothering to hide his satisfaction. "Test concluded." "Not yet," Mara countered, activating her suit's secondary defense system. Nanobots swarmed from specialized reservoirs, sealing the microscopic breaches faster than they could form. "The self-healing protocol is working. I can continue." She could almost hear Relak's mandibles clicking in frustration. "Proceed to final phase," he ordered after a moment of tense silence. The final phase was simple, but brutal. Duration. Mara would have to endure the combined atmospheric assault for a full 30 minutes, the minimum time needed for a valuable scientific survey on the planet's surface. Time seemed to stretch as Mara endured the shifting hell around her. Her suit performed admirably, but it wasn't perfect. Small amounts of the toxic atmosphere began to penetrate as the nanobot struggled to keep up with the damage. Sweat poured down her face, and her breathing grew labored as her recycled air became incrementally contaminated. Through it all, she kept moving, kept functioning, kept reporting her status in a clear, professional voice that betrayed none of her growing discomfort. When the 30-minute mark finally arrived, Mara was still standing, barely. Her legs trembled with exhaustion, and her lungs burned with each breath. But she had done it. "Test completed," she managed, her voice hoarse. "Request extraction." The chamber began to clear, the hellish atmosphere replaced by clean, breathable air. As the entry port reopened, Mara summoned her remaining strength to walk, not stagger, out of the chamber. She made it 3 steps before her knees buckled. Strong arms caught her. Surprisingly, they belonged to a Zentari crew member. As her helmet retracted, She found herself looking up into the crystalline eyes of one of Raylak's scouts. "Impressive, human," the scout said simply, before helping her to her feet. On the observation deck, the gathered crew members were silent, expressions ranging from shock to newfound respect. Commander Raylak's mandibles worked silently for a moment before he finally spoke. "It seems I may have underestimated both you and your technology, Dr. Vale," he said, the words clearly difficult for him. "You will be permitted to join the landing party. Prepare your equipment." It wasn't quite an apology, but from a Zentari, it was close. Mara nodded, not trusting herself to speak without revealing how close to collapse she truly was. As the observers dispersed, Lyra and Sam remained, the former's skin glowing with excitement, the latter's amorphous form practically vibrating with relief. "You did it!" Lyra exclaimed, her chime-like voice ringing with pride. Sam's containment field bumped gently against Mara's shoulder in the Venturian equivalent of a pat on the back. The suit performed even better than our simulations predicted, with some minor adjustments to counter the progressive degradation we observed. You should be well protected on the actual planet. Mara managed a tired smile. "Thank you both for believing in me, and in human capability." She straightened, ignoring the protests of her aching body. "Now, let's prepare for Karen 5. The real challenge is just beginning." The landing shuttle cut through Karen 5's toxic clouds like a blade, buffeted by atmospheric currents that threatened to tear it apart. Inside, Mara and 9 other expedition members, including one other human, Dr. Elias Wilson, a geologist who had been hastily approved following Mara's successful test, were strapped into impact cradles. Commander Raylak, who had insisted on leading the expedition personally, gripped his restraints with all 4 of his chitinous limbs. "Atmospheric interference is stronger than anticipated," he reported over the comms. "Brace for turbulence." The shuttle lurched violently, throwing everyone against their restraints. Warning lights flashed across the cabin as the shields strained against the caustic assault of Karen 5's atmosphere. "Shield integrity at 67%, called out the Mojave pilot, her tentacles working frantically across the controls. "We need to find a landing zone quickly." Lyra, secured in a specialized cradle adapted for her weightless form, consulted her scanner. "There's a relatively stable plateau 2 kilometers ahead, minimal atmospheric disturbance and solid ground composition." "Take us in," Raylak ordered. The shuttle banked sharply, fighting against winds that howled like tortured souls. Through the viewport, Mara caught glimpses of a nightmarish landscape, jagged rock formations jutting from bubbling pools of what looked like liquid metal, all under a sky of swirling purple and acid green. With a bone-jarring impact, the shuttle finally touched down. Warning klaxons immediately sounded as the external sensors reported the atmospheric composition. "By the Founders," whispered one of the Zentari scouts. "It's worse than the simulations." Mara activated her suit, the protective membrane flowing seamlessly around her body. Beside her, Dr. Wilson did the same, his face pale but determined behind his helmet. "Remember," Mara said to him privately, through their suit-to-suit channel, "the suit will adapt to the conditions, but it needs time. Move slowly at first until the outer membrane stabilizes." Wilson nodded, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed nervously. "I've been waiting my entire career to set foot on an uncharted world. I'm not going to let a little toxic atmosphere stop me now." Mara smiled at his bravado. "That's the spirit." Commander Raylak addressed the team as they prepared to disembark. "Our mission parameters are clear. Establish a research outpost, conduct preliminary surveys, and evaluate Karen 5's potential for future Alliance operations. We have 6 hours before the shuttle's shields will be compromised beyond repair. Work quickly, but carefully." The airlock cycled, and the harsh reality of Karen 5 rushed to greet them. Even through her protective suit, Mara could feel the assault, extreme heat, caustic chemicals, and the ever-present cationic particles that made the air shimmer with unnatural light. Her suit's systems worked overtime, the outer membrane constantly reconfiguring its molecular structure to counter each new threat. The heads-up display flashed with warnings and status updates that she had to consciously tune out to focus on the task at hand. "Communications check." Raylock's voice came through crisp and clear in her helmet. One by one, the team members acknowledged, their voices tense but professional. "Initiating preliminary atmospheric analysis," Mara announced, activating the specialized sensors built into her suit. "Confirming presence of sulfuric compounds, methane derivatives, and something else. The cationic particles appear to be reacting with the methane in a way I've never seen before." "Geological survey underway," added Wilson, kneeling to examine a rock formation that seemed to be slowly changing shape before their eyes. The substrate appears to be in a constant state of molecular flux. It's as if the entire planet is alive, somehow. The team spread out, each member focusing on their area of expertise. The Centauri scouts established a perimeter, while Lyra set up equipment to study the bizarre stellar phenomena visible through gaps in the toxic clouds. Sam, whose Venturian physiology made him particularly vulnerable to Karen 5's environment, remained in the shuttle, coordinating the data streams and maintaining communication with the Aegis in orbit. For the first hour, everything proceeded according to plan. The team collected samples, recorded observations, and began assembling the prefabricated components of the research outpost. Despite the hostile conditions, there was a sense of accomplishment in the air. Then the acid rain began. It started as a few droplets that sizzled against the rocky ground. Within moments, it had become a downpour that threatened to overwhelm even their advanced protective gear. "Take cover," Raylock ordered, as the caustic liquid began eating through the expedition's equipment. Mara and Wilson ducked beneath an overhanging rock formation, watching in horror as the acid rain dissolved metal components into steaming puddles. "This isn't in any of the atmospheric models," Mara said, checking her suit's integrity. The outer membrane was holding, but only just. "The precipitation shouldn't be this aggressive." Wilson pointed to a nearby ridge. "Look there!" Through the curtain of acid rain, Mara could make out strange, crystalline formations that seemed to be moving. As she watched, one of the formations extended what looked like limbs and began climbing down the ridge toward their position. "Commander," she called over the comms, "we have company, unknown entities approaching from the northwest." Raylock's reply was immediate and tense. "All personnel, defensive positions. Unknown life forms were not part of our briefing." The crystal entities, Mara counted at least a dozen, continued their approach, seemingly unaffected by the acid rain. They ranged in size from that of a small dog to larger than a human, their translucent bodies refracting the eerie light of Karen 5's atmosphere. "They appear to be silicon-based," Wilson observed, his scientific curiosity momentarily overcoming his fear. "Possibly evolved to thrive in this caustic environment." One of the Centauri scouts raised a defensive weapon. "Commander, request permission to fire if they approach within 10 meters. "Granted," Raylock replied grimly. "But hold unless threatened. We are scientists first, warriors second." Mara's suit sensors were going haywire, picking up strange energy signatures from the crystal entities. "They're emitting some kind of electromagnetic field," she reported. "It's interfering with our equipment." As if in response to her words, the largest of the entities suddenly accelerated, moving with surprising speed across the rocky terrain. It stopped just outside the defensive perimeter, its crystalline body pulsing with internal light. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the entity extended a limb-like appendage directly toward Mara. "Dr. Vale, do not move," Raylock ordered, his own weapon trained on the creature. Mara held her breath as the crystalline appendage hovered inches from her helmet. The entity seemed to be examining her. "I think it's curious," she whispered. "It's not acting aggressively." The entity withdrew its appendage and then, in a display that left the entire team speechless, it began to reshape itself, forming a crude but recognizable approximation of a human silhouette. "It's mimicking you," Lyra gasped, her voice filled with wonder. Before anyone could respond, the acid rain intensified, and a violent tremor shook the ground beneath them. The crystal entities scattered, disappearing back into the toxic landscape as quickly as they had appeared. "Seismic activity increasing," warned the Mojave pilot from the shuttle. "Recommend immediate evacuation of the area." Raylak's decision was immediate. "Grab what samples you can and fall back to the shuttle. The outpost will have to wait." As the team scrambled to salvage what equipment they could, Mara's attention was drawn to a strange formation revealed by the recent tremor. What had appeared to be a natural rock wall now showed signs of artificial construction, straight lines, and regular patterns that could not have formed naturally. "Commander," she called, "I think we found something. There's a structure here, possibly artificial." Raylak hesitated, torn between safety and discovery. "How certain are you?" 90%, Mara replied, already moving toward the formation. "This could be the first evidence of intelligent life on Karen 5. After a moment's consideration, Raylak made his decision. "Dr. Vale, Dr. Wilson, Scouts Tizak and Vorn, investigate the structure. The rest of us will secure the shuttle. You have 15 minutes. Mara led the small group toward the formation, her suit sensors recording everything. As they approached, what had seemed like a solid wall revealed itself to be the entrance to a cave or tunnel, partially obscured by fallen debris. "It's definitely artificial," Wilson confirmed, examining the perfectly straight edges of the opening. "These cuts were made with tools, not natural processes." Scout Tezak, a younger Zentari whose exoskeleton still gleamed with the blue sheen of recent molting, scanned the opening. No energy signatures detected. If this was a facility of some kind, it's long dormant. "We should explore inside," Mara suggested, already calculating how to clear the debris safely. Scout Vorn, the more experienced of the two Zentari, clicked his mandibles in warning. "The commander gave us 15 minutes. Dr. Vale, we don't have time for a proper excavation." Another tremor, stronger than the first, made the decision for them. The debris shifted, revealing more of the opening, enough for a person to squeeze through. "Now or never," Mara said, moving toward the gap before anyone could stop her. "Dr. Vale!" Vorn called after her, but she was already slipping through the opening. Inside, her suit lights revealed a corridor that stretched into darkness, its walls covered in intricate patterns that seemed to glow faintly in response to her presence. The air, while still toxic, was noticeably different from the atmosphere outside, less turbulent, more controlled. "You need to see this," she called back to the others, her voice filled with awe. One by one, they squeezed through the gap, first Wilson, then the two Zentari scouts. All stood in stunned silence as they took in their surroundings. "It's some kind of facility," Wilson breathed, running his gloved hand over one of the glowing patterns. "And it's still active, at least partially." Mara's suit sensors were detecting complex energy signatures throughout the structure. "I think this might be connected to the cationic particles in the atmosphere. The patterns match the energy signature we've been tracking." Scout Tezak moved cautiously down the corridor. "The passage continues deeper. There appears to be a larger chamber ahead." "Commander Raylak," Mara reported over the comms. "We've discovered an artificial structure, possibly still operational. Request extension of our investigation time." Static answered her. The thick walls of the structure were blocking their communications. "We should turn back," Vorn stated firmly. "We can return with proper equipment after reporting this discovery." Another tremor, violent enough to knock them all off balance, shook the structure. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling. The seismic activity is increasing, Wilson noted, his voice tight with concern. This entire area could collapse. Mara made a split-second decision. Tezak, you and Vorn return to the shuttle. Report what we found. Dr. Wilson and I will continue a bit further and follow shortly. The Zentari scouts hesitated, clearly torn between their duty to follow orders and their reluctance to leave the humans behind. That's an order, Mara added, with as much authority as she could muster. The Alliance needs to know about this discovery, even if we don't make it back. Finally, Vorn nodded. 10 minutes. Dr. Vale. Then we're coming back for you, with or without the commander's permission. As the scouts retreated, Mara and Wilson pressed deeper into the structure. The corridor widened into a vast chamber filled with what could only be described as technology, though unlike any they had ever seen. Crystalline formations, similar to the entities they had encountered outside, rose from the floor and ceiling, connected by pulsing lines of energy that formed complex three-dimensional patterns. It's a control center of some kind, Wilson guessed, examining a cluster of crystal pillars that seemed to respond to their presence by glowing more intensely. Mara's attention was drawn to a central platform where a larger crystal formation pulsed with rhythmic intensity. As she approached, her suit's sensors detected a surge in the cationic energy field. "I think this is it," she said, excitement overriding her caution. "This might be the source of Karen 5's unique atmospheric conditions." Wilson joined her on the platform, his eyes wide behind his helmet. "Are you suggesting this entire planet's toxic atmosphere is artificial, created by whatever civilization built this place?" Before Mara could respond, the strongest tremor yet rocked the chamber. Crystalline structures shattered around them, and a large section of the ceiling came crashing down. Wilson shoved Mara aside, saving her from being crushed but placing himself directly in the path of the falling debris. A jagged crystal shard pierced his suit, and he cried out in pain as toxic atmosphere rushed into the breach. "Wilson!" Mara scrambled to his side, horror washing over her as she saw the rapidly spreading tear in his suit. The cationic particles were already affecting him, causing his exposed skin to blister and discolor. "Get out!" he gasped, his voice already raspy from the toxic exposure. "The whole place is coming down." Mara frantically searched her suit systems for something, anything that could help. Then she remembered the prototype feature she and Sam had incorporated, but never had a chance to test. "Hang on," she told Wilson, activating her suit's emergency protocol. "I'm initiating a compartment share." A section of her suit's membrane extended from her arm, flowing over Wilson's body and sealing around the breach in his suit. It wasn't a permanent solution. Her suit's life support could not sustain two people for long, but it might buy them enough time to escape. "What are you doing?" Wilson demanded weakly, as the shared membrane took effect, stemming the flow of toxic atmosphere into his suit. "Saving your life," Mara replied, helping him to his feet. "Now, let's get out of here before we both run out of air." They staggered toward the exit, Mara supporting most of Wilson's weight as his strength failed him. The continuous tremors made their progress slow and treacherous, with more of the structure collapsing around them with each step. Halfway back to the entrance, Mara's suit alarms began to sound. The shared membrane was straining her life support to its limits, and the atmosphere was beginning to penetrate her own protections. "Leave me," Wilson pleaded, his breathing labored. "You can't save us both." "Not an option," Mara gritted out, pulling him forward despite the burning in her lungs. "Humans stick together, remember?" They had almost reached the entrance when the most violent tremor yet struck. The corridor ahead collapsed entirely, sealing their exit with tons of rubble. "No!" Mara cried, her desperation mounting as her suit reported critical life support levels. Wilson slumped against her, barely conscious. "There's no way out." Refusing to accept defeat, Mara scanned their surroundings frantically, Her fading vision caught sight of a faint glow emanating from a previously unnoticed side passage. "There," she pointed. "Another way." With the last of her strength, she dragged Wilson toward the passage. It led to a smaller chamber, dominated by what appeared to be a control console. Crystal formations arranged in patterns that somehow suggested function. As they entered, the crystals pulsed with increased intensity, reacting to their presence. Mara's scientific mind raced, connecting the dots between this facility, the crystal entities, and Karen Five's toxic atmosphere. "This isn't a natural environment," she realized aloud, her voice weak. "It's a containment system. The whole planet is essentially a prison, with the atmosphere as the bars." Wilson, barely conscious, managed to focus on the crystal console. "What? Is it containing?" "I don't know," Mara admitted, "but I think this console controls it." With her suit now reporting imminent failure and her vision darkening at the edges, Mara made the most desperate gamble of her life. She placed her gloved hands directly on the crystal formation, allowing her suit systems to interface with the alien technology. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Energy surged through her suit, through her implants, directly into her mind. Visions flooded her consciousness. An ancient civilization, a devastating war, a weapon of last resort. The toxic atmosphere hadn't been designed to kill. It had been designed to preserve, to keep the planet in stasis until it could be safely awakened. And now, after countless millennia, the awakening had begun. Mara could feel her consciousness slipping away as the toxic atmosphere finally breached her suit completely. With her last moment of clarity, she executed the command that the ancient system had been waiting for, the atmospheric reversal protocol. As darkness claimed her, she heard the crystal console emit a high-pitched tone that seemed to resonate with the very planet itself. Then, nothing. Consciousness returned to Mara in fragments. First sensation, the feel of something soft beneath her. Then sound, the rhythmic beep of medical equipment. Finally sight, the sterile white ceiling of the Aegis Medical Bay swimming into focus. "She's awake," came Lyra's chime-like voice from somewhere nearby. Mara tried to speak, but her throat felt raw, as if she'd swallowed fire. A Mohathi medical officer appeared above her, multiple eyes blinking in what she recognized as their expression of relief. "Do not attempt to speak yet, Dr. Vale," the officer advised. "Your respiratory system suffered significant damage from atmospheric exposure." Memory flooded back. The planet, the structure. Wilson. "Wilson," she managed to croak, ignoring the burning pain. "Dr. Wilson is recovering," the medical officer assured her. "Your innovative use of the compartment share feature saved his life, though it nearly cost you your own." Mara relaxed slightly, relief washing over her. Then another thought struck her. The console, the command she had activated. "Karen 5?" she asked urgently. Commander Raylak stepped into her field of vision, his crystalline eyes studying her with an unreadable expression. "You have caused quite the diplomatic situation, Dr. Vale." Before Mara could question him, Som's containment field floated into view, the Venturian's amorphous form agitated with excitement. "Mara, it's extraordinary. The atmospheric composition of Karen 5 is changing. The cationic particles are reconfiguring, transforming the toxic elements into breathable compounds. The entire planet is undergoing a metamorphosis," Lyra added, her skin glowing with the blue intensity that indicated Paxian excitement. "Whatever you activated in that facility, it wasn't just a control system. It was a planetary restoration mechanism." Mara struggled to sit up, wincing at the pain that shot through her body. The medical officer reluctantly assisted her, adjusting the bed to a more upright position. "How long?" she asked, her voice still rough. "You've been unconscious for 3 days," Raylak informed her. In that time, Karen 5's atmosphere has become 30% less toxic. At the current rate of transformation, it will be breathable without protection in approximately 2 weeks. Mara struggled to process this information. The facility. It was built by an ancient civilization. The toxic atmosphere was a containment system, designed to preserve the planet until it could be safely awakened. Relax's mandibles clicked in what might have been skepticism. And you determined all this in the moments before losing consciousness? The console. It showed me. Mara tried to explain, knowing how it sounded. When my suit interfaced with the crystal technology, I saw visions, memories stored in the system itself. To her surprise, Raylock didn't dismiss her claim outright. We have recovered data crystals from the facility. What remains of it after the seismic activity subsided. Initial translations suggest your interpretation may be correct. Karen 5 was indeed placed in a form of stasis, though for what purpose remains unclear. The Alliance Council has dispatched a full scientific expedition, Sam added. They're calling it the most significant discovery in 500 cycles. Mara felt a swell of pride, not just for herself, but for humanity. And humans will be part of that expedition. Relax's crystalline eyes fixed on her. Humans will be leading that expedition. Dr. Vale, your actions, while reckless and in direct violation of my orders, have demonstrated a unique aptitude that the Alliance would be foolish to ignore. Coming from the previously skeptical Centauri commander, this was high praise indeed. The Council has authorized the establishment of a permanent research outpost on Karen 5, Raylock continued. They are calling it New Vale, in recognition of your contribution. Emotion welled up in Mara's throat, making speech even more difficult. Thank you, Commander. Raylock made a dismissive gesture with one clawed hand. Do not thank me, Dr. Vale. I still believe you took unnecessary risks. However, his mandibles clicked in what might have been reluctant admiration. I cannot argue with results. As the others left to allow her to rest, Lyra lingered behind. There's something else you should know, the Paxian said softly. The crystal entities you encountered on the surface, they've been gathering around the facility since the transformation began. Mara's interest was immediately piqued. Gathering? Why? We believe they're guardians of sorts, Lyra explained. Perhaps created by the same civilization that built the facility. They seem to be waiting for something. Or someone, Mara mused, remembering how the entity had mimicked her form. Lyra's skin pulsed with gentle light. Rest now. There will be time for further exploration once you've recovered. As the Paxian departed, Mara lay back, her mind racing despite her exhaustion. Karen 5 was transforming, becoming a world that could support diverse life once again. And somehow, she, a human, one of the newest and least respected species in the Alliance, had been the key to unlocking its secrets. 2 weeks later, Mara stood on the surface of Karen 5 without a protective suit for the first time. The transformation was nearly complete. What had once been a toxic hellscape was now a world of breathtaking beauty. The purple-green skies had cleared to reveal a sky of deep blue, occasionally streaked with ribbons of golden light, as the remaining cationic particles dispersed harmlessly into the upper atmosphere. Where acid pools had once bubbled, clear lakes now reflected the twin suns. The jagged rock formations had softened, and in some areas, what looked suspiciously like plant life had begun to emerge. It's like watching evolution in fast forward, Wilson remarked, standing beside her. He had recovered more quickly than Mara, though a jagged scar on his neck served as a permanent reminder of their close call. Not evolution, Mara corrected gently. Restoration. This is what Karen 5 was always meant to be. The toxic state was the aberration, not this. Around them, the New Vale outpost bustled with activity, as Alliance scientists from dozens of species worked to document the planet's transformation. The original facility, now referred to as the Awakening Chamber, had been partially excavated, revealing more of the ancient technology that had controlled the planet's state for untold millennia. Commander Raylak approached, accompanied by a delegation of Alliance officials who had arrived to inspect the outpost. Among them was High Counselor Zhen, one of the 12 beings who governed the entire Galactic Alliance. Dr. Vale, Raylak greeted her formally. High Counselor Zhen wishes to speak with you. The High Counselor, a Thraexian whose translucent body seemed to contain an entire galaxy of swirling lights, inclined what passed for a head in her direction. Dr. Mara Vale, your discovery has significant implications for the Alliance's understanding of our galactic history. Mara bowed respectfully. Thank you, High Counselor, though I can't take credit for building the facility. A sound like distant bells indicated Thraexian amusement. No, but you had the courage and insight to activate it when others might have retreated. The human quality of, what do you call it? Intuition. It is proving to be a valuable addition to our collective knowledge. Pride swelled in Mara's chest. Not just personal pride, but pride for her species. In the 75 cycles since humanity had joined the Alliance, they had struggled to prove their worth among civilizations that had been traveling the stars when humans were still learning to make fire. Now, perhaps, that was beginning to change. High Counselor, she said carefully, the data we've recovered suggests that there may be other worlds like Karen 5, planets placed in stasis by this ancient civilization. If we could locate them. Indeed, Zhen interrupted, the lights within their body pulsing with increased intensity. The Council has already authorized a search, and you, Dr. Vale, will be offered command of the first exploration vessel assigned to this task. Mara felt her breath catch. Command of an Alliance vessel was a position no human had yet attained. I'm honored, High Counselor. Do not answer immediately, Zhen advised. Consider the responsibility carefully. You would be not just a scientist, but a representative of humanity in a role of unprecedented authority. As the delegation moved on to inspect other areas of the outpost, Wilson nudged Mara's shoulder. Command of your own ship. Not bad for someone they said couldn't even survive this planet's atmosphere. Mara smiled, looking out over the transforming landscape of Karen 5. In the distance, she could see a group of the crystal entities, now known to be artificial guardians created to monitor the planet's status, moving gracefully across a newly formed meadow. They said humans couldn't survive this planet, she agreed. Now we're helping bring it back to life. Above them, the last visible traces of cationic particles dispersed in a shower of golden light, like a curtain finally lifting after an age-long performance. Karen 5's true face was revealed at last, not as a toxic prison, but as a world of promise and new beginnings. For Mara Vale, and for humanity, it was just the first step into a wider universe that was only beginning to recognize their potential.